Do you want to know how to discipline an autistic 3-year-old? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education through the lens of the principle self-government. In this video, we're going to be talking about autistic 3-year-olds. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how autism impacts 3-year-olds developmentally, and then what you can do to prepare your autistic 3-year-old to be able to succeed and even have self-government. So this channel is all about self-government. What is self-government? Self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. And even a 3-year-old can learn how to do this. In fact, my granddaughter right now is 3 years old, and she can do all of the 4 basic skills of self-government. She's a very strong-willed little thing, and she knows how to regulate herself and keep herself in control. Now, I know that seems like maybe pie in the sky for some families who have autistic 3-year-olds who might be very high energy, have a hard time focusing in on stuff, have higher levels of anxiety about things. I realize that could be difficult for you to even think is possible. However, I do know that the skills and principles of self-government are actually usable for everyone. So let's talk about what it might be like to have an autistic 3-year-old. If you're asking this question, I'm pretty sure you already know the answer to this situation, but autism is a special type of processing where people oftentimes have a hard time focusing in with other people. They have a hard time with eye contact, making connections. Some of their communications can be disrupted. Sometimes they have elevated levels of frustration and anxiety because of their need for things to be very structured, predictable, and for them to feel like they have a certain amount of control over their surroundings. When a toddler who already is developmentally at a stage where they like to be in control of their surroundings also has autism, this cannot come across as a very strong force for control in the family. But the really neat thing about teaching self-government is it's completely predictable. And there are many autistic websites out there that actually are referring to teaching self-government as a great way to help with autistic children. Teaching self-government is something that I started doing years ago with troubled teens, and as I was raising my own children all the way from birth until they left the home. So you might be saying, well, teens, does that really apply to me? Because 3-year-old is really different. It absolutely does still apply because all of the skills and principles of self-government are things that we all work on our entire lives. So let's talk about the 4 basic skills of self-government. These children's books each teach one of the 4 basic skills of self-government. The 4 basic skills of self-government, if learned, take care of 99% of a person's behavioral problems. They're very predictable, structured, organized, they're concrete. They're the type of thing that make an autistic person feel a little bit more at peace. So what are the 4 basic skills of self-government? They are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. When a person learns the skill sets to those 4 basic skills, it takes care of 99% of their behavioral problems. So all of the 4 basic skills have one step in common, and that is to keep a calm face, voice, and body. When your child is young, in fact, as young as possible, try to teach them what calmness is and what it isn't. Role play with it, experiment with it. Show them when you're watching movies or TV programs or reading stories. Is that person being calm? Look at their face. That's not a calm face. What does your calm face look like? And you might look in the mirror. Well, what does it look like when you don't have a calm face? You might do that and then look in the mirror. So if they can get an understanding of what it feels like and looks like to be calm, then they can properly start analyzing themselves. When a person has the opportunity to analyze themselves and learn what it feels like and looks like for them to be calm, then they can start taking steps toward calmness, which then ultimately leads toward their own self-government. When a parent is disciplining a child who is 3 years old and has autism, they need to make sure that they are consistent. that they do their parenting the same every time. In fact, if the words can even be the same every time, all the better. For many years, I actually wrote cues for myself on cue cards so that when I was working with autistic children in my home, that I would be able to be exactly the same every single time that I corrected. And you know what I found out? Just because a person has autism doesn't mean that they should be the only ones that get predictable and consistent communication. I started being predictable and consistent with all of the children that came to my house through foster care and with the children I was raising myself. And it made a difference. I used the same words every single time, and the anxiety levels go down. If you've subscribed to this channel already, then you know that I am all about parents having self-government just as much as the children having self-government too. This means that in order to truly create an environment where your child is going to learn mastery over themselves, and in order to have a very calm and consistent discipline environment, you're probably going to have to do a little bit of work on your own self-government. So if you have an autistic child who's having a tantrum, who is exploding or going out of control, or maybe even withdrawing from you in some way, not communicating like you would like them to, basically that's a no answer for you. So you need to also learn those 4 basic skills of self-government. For instance, the steps to accepting a no answer are to look at the person or the situation, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, and then drop the subject. While working on your own calmness, it's going to be beneficial for you to also learn the words that you need to say to be predictable for your child. The steps to a proper correction include describing the situation. That's very non-emotional, which is important for working with autistic children. Step number 2, give a reason for why this isn't a good idea. Don't overdo it there, because sometimes a child with autism might get lost if your explanation goes too long. So keep it short and sweet, but definitely get to the point where they get the why, because they do like the why. Everyone does. Then what they should have done. Again, very concrete. Go back to the skills that they've always used in the past. After that, tell them what type of a negative consequence they've earned. Now, in the teaching self-government system, we use extra chores, even for toddlers. You just make them age appropriate. So what would be a great extra chore for a toddler? Well, maybe that toddler could take their shoes to the front door, or maybe they could bring the coat to their room, or go get a diaper for the baby, or throw something away in the garbage, or they might even be able to help you with a household task. They get the opportunity to accept a negative consequence by doing an extra chore, and then you praise them. But don't forget to take some time to practice things the right way. Whatever happened, whether they didn't follow instructions, didn't accept a no answer, didn't accept a consequence or something, what you need to do is make sure that you practice that same situation the right way. And if they have the attention span, try to do 1 to 2 more practices after that, making sure that you praise them. Developmentally, when a person is in their toddler years, they need a lot of repetition, which means that they need to have more practice doing things the right way than the wrong way. The wrong way is just going to happen, but the right way sometimes needs to be thought of so that they get the chance to do that type of practice. So make sure that you're instigating some good practice, maybe on a daily or weekly basis, and then for sure, when they need to be corrected about something, get to those positive practices as well. Self-government is all about connecting with the people around you, developing strong relationships, and learning cause and effect so that a person can properly problem solve. When you establish a good connection with your child, and you teach them the skills and principles of self-government so that they can do their problem solving, then they can feel the confidence that everyone feels when they learn the skills and principles of self-government, whether they're autistic or not. Your child does not have to be held back by their autism. Sure, the learning curve might be steeper, but over time they can learn many skills and principles of self-government. To learn more about these skills and principles of self-government, you may want to watch the video about role-playing the 4 basic skills of self-government. Click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.